It's been a while, Tetro.
Please, just get on with your request.
I want to know if you've heard anybody talking about muskets lately.
Information isn't free, you know.
I've heard that bandits have been extremely active in the countryside recently, and they've been affecting the delivery of goods to Poisson. I can allocate some more manpower to help out with that problem. What do you say?
You're still as helpful as ever. One of our men got drunk at dinner about a month ago and lost his gun. 3 days later, it turned up in the corner here.
What's weird about that? He just forgot where he put it, right?
This is Fleuve Cendre, my friend. Anything of value left in the tavern won't ever make it to the next day. But that gun turned out to be an exception. It didn't get any new wear and tear on it, and didn't even appear to have been fired. We were quite mystified as to what could have happened.
I suspect it came back because the weapon was already known to the guards.
You mean, a criminal was afraid the Marechaussee Phantom would use the shot marks to track them down? Maybe. But if that's the case, the culprit really took great care to avoid getting caught.
I didn't say anything about a criminal.
In Fleuve Cendre, knowing who was killed is as easy as knowing what clothes you're wearing today. It's the guy living in the east side, isn't it? I've never liked him. Every time he's here, he just orders a drink and sits there with a nasty look in his eyes.
So, who was the one who lost the gun in the first place?
Don't bother. Even if you ask, he wouldn't admit to owning a gun to some strangers. Not to mention the captain of the Special Security and Surveillance Patrol.
He's right.
I know you grew up here, Chevreuse. Even though you're on good terms with the Spina, you've still been gone too long. Not many people know you here now, and a lot of people don't like the Special Patrol.
I know.
So take my advice and don't show your face too much around here. It's for your own safety.
I'll come and go as I please, and I'm afraid I'll be appearing more often due to my work.
All right. Don't say I didn't warn you.
Seems like that's all we'll be able to uncover for today.
Paimon feels like we managed to learn a lot more here than up on the surface.
Yes. Assuming that everything we found is indeed connected to our suspect, then their timeline was probably something like this. A month ago, our suspect found a gun and took it home to disassemble it. Once he'd figured out its mechanics, he brought it back. In the following weeks, he used some parts to create his own makeshift musket, and took it to the Fleuve Cendre for target practice. Then, a few days ago, he found his target and carried out the murder. Once the deed was done, he left a rainbow rose on the body, just like the scene in the novel.
That all makes sense to Paimon, but we're still no closer to figuring out the killer's identity!
The deceased was a resident of Fleuve Cendre. It's said that he was a poor, solitary man. Yeah, that's also something I'm trying to figure out. If we are indeed following the novel, and there's a story behind the murder, then this murder should be an act of vengeance. But according to our investigation, the deceased didn't have any enemies. He was no saint, but no one's heard of a rival who hated him enough to shoot him dead. Much less care to leave a rose on his body. What message is the killer trying to convey? And to whom exactly? We've thoroughly investigated that possibility. He claims to have spent the whole day at the Opera House on the day of the murder, and the staff there have confirmed his account.
Okay, so he has an alibi.
Not only that, he lacks a credible motive as well. He has a family of his own, and both of his parents are still alive. I've looked into his records. He was adopted at the age of 6, and all the proper procedures were followed. There are also records of him at an orphanage before then. In the story, the mother of the 2 musketeers was murdered after the children turned 10. Of course, he could have changed the children's ages, but I don't want to assume anything without evidence. More importantly, I've also had a chat with him in person. He didn't seem like the kind of person who would pull the trigger to kill a man.
Then, what should we do now? We have all this new information, but it doesn't help us move forward.
Investigations take time. I didn't expect us to catch the culprit in just a single day. How about this? Let's spend the next few days filming with the crew. We can continue the investigation once we're done with the film. I'm sure that given time, new leads will present themselves.
Wait, but weren't you saying Intel is like small, remote islands in the middle of the sea just a moment ago? Wouldn't you just miss them if you were to stop looking?
Ah, but the book had more than one reference to the islands, Paimon.
Oh? What else did it say then?
As long as you spend enough time sailing through the fog, you'll eventually come across an island.